Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team every single game night at Kevin Gray Sports. You can find me on X there. You can find our Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella at Bobby Carella. It is game night for your Dallas Mavericks as they look for back-to-back wins, taking on the Portland Trail Blazers at the American Airlines Center. The weather may be frightful outside, Bobby, but hopefully the basketball is delightful inside the American Airlines Center as the Mavericks look to push their homestand to 2-0 with a win, of course, over the Los Angeles Lakers a couple of days ago. They welcome in a Blazers team that's been 5-5 in their last 10 games, but the Mavericks looking to continue a win streak at the AAC tonight. We'll get you ready for the game over the course of the next half hour with game time at 6:30 p.m. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports while you are here as well. You can do the same for our podcast wherever you get your podcasts for free. Bobby, what's going on, man? How you doing? You keeping warm inside the with the cold weather going out there today?
KG, I'm doing well. Hopefully anyone that had to go out and work today, or if you're going to the game tonight, just make sure you're driving safe, drive carefully. Don't take any chances, all right? I don't have any kids, but I'm going to go into dad mode right now. Just be careful and also have a good time. I wasn't bold enough to make the brief walk to the arena, so I'm going to be watching this one from the cozy confines of my living room. But Tim Cato's on the scene, so we'll get him on shortly. And, man, it is so much more fun to talk about basketball after a win than it is after a loss. I woke up today, ready for this game, which is a feeling I haven't experienced in a couple weeks. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, a lot of Mavericks fans excited about it. Luke, I see you in the chat already with Let's Go Mavs as the Mavericks at 21-16, 11-6 so far at the American Airlines Center take on a Blazers team that's 13-23 on the season, 5-15 away from home this year. Mavericks 7.5-point favorite tonight coming into tonight's game with the over-under at 220.5. Of course, the Mavericks fifth in the Western Conference at this point, just a half game behind the Denver Nuggets for the fourth spot. You will see a lot of Denver here coming up over the next few days as Denver will be in for two games beginning on Sunday afternoon. The Mavericks were just 2-5, of course, without lukadoncic's Christmas Day, snapped their 5-game losing streak on Tuesday by taking out the Los Angeles Lakers. Mavericks 11-5 this season versus teams below 500, currently 1-0 on their 4-game homestand. They'll continue that tonight with Portland, and as I mentioned, of course, take on the Denver Nuggets on Sunday and Tuesday at the American Airlines Center. Meanwhile, the Portland Trail Blazers 13th in the West, 4.5 games out of the 10th and final spots in the Western Conference. They're 5-5, though, in their last 10 games, playing a little bit better as of late. They're also coming off a win last night, so that means they're on the second night of a back-to-back after beating the Pelicans last night. They'll be able to finish up their 5-game road trip tonight with Dallas. They are currently 2-2 on said road trip. Is Portland. They got wins over the Pelicans and the Pistons with losses to the Lakers. The Pelicans and the Bucks. That's Bobby's Bucks, of course, and losses to the Lakers and the Detroit Pistons. Portland so far 8-14 this year against teams above 500. But as we get into tonight's game and the preview of tonight's game, Bobby, let's go ahead and get to your scouting report, focusing on someone who played pretty well last night for Portland in their win over the Pelicans, and that being Dinwiddie for the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yeah, so don't be deceived here by the Blazers' record. Over their last 7 games, they are 4-3, and one guy that's been playing really well for them has had some really big games against the Mavs. That's Dinwiddie. So last night, Kevin, to your point, he had 26 points on 10 of 15 shooting, made 4 threes. A game before that, he had 14 rebounds. A game before that, he had 10 turnovers. So there's some swings, but this season, Avdia has scored 19 or more points. I'm trying to do the math in my head real quick. I think 12 times. 3 of them have come against the Mavs. He has 5 20-point games. 2 of them have come against the Mavs, and they've come in different ways. So the game in Portland when Dallas won. So this is a few weeks ago. They've played each other. This is the fourth time they've played each other in like the last 4 or 5 weeks. And so I'm getting kind of tired of talking about these players. But the first time they played in Portland, Avdia was going kind of bully ball mode, getting switches onto smaller players, onto guards, taking them to the hoop because he's 6'7", 6'8", has a little bit of size. The rest of the Blazers were hot from three, and he was too, but he was doing a lot of his damage around the basket. Whenever the Blazers came to Dallas, the Mavs won that game, but Avdia in that game was hitting some jumpers, getting some mid-range game going. And then whenever the Blazers beat the Mavs in Dallas last week or whenever that was, whenever Kyrie went off for 46, Avdia did a little bit of everything. He got to the rim, got to the free throw line 11 times, had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and had a really big game. So he's coming along really nicely for them. And a lot of their young players are playing well lately. Simon's averaging almost 23 a game during this little last 7-game stretch. Avdia averaging 20, Jaden Sharp averaging 20, DeAndre Ayton averaging 13 points and 11 rebounds. Toumani Kamara's been shooting the ball a little worse than he was earlier in the year, but he's still above 50% from the floor. And so, this is a team that could get hot from three. The Mavs have seen that. This is a team that could be really good around the basket. The Mavs have seen that. The Mavs have seen them go to the free throw line a million times. The Mavs have seen Jaden Sharp go off and Anthony Simons go off and Avdia go off. So, again, the Blazers might be they might have a lousy record and they might not be a playoff or even a play-in team this year or next year. Who knows? But they are dangerous, and for the Mavs team that's missing a lot of star power, you cannot take anything for granted.
Yeah, not a team that you could take lightly in the Portland Trail Blazers. They are going to compete, and they've got some guys that can put the ball in the basket, which gives us to our lead story tonight for your Dallas Mavericks. Can the Mavericks' depth continue to be depthing Bobby Karalla as the Mavericks look to make it 2 in a row at home? Of course, the Mavericks bench outscored the Lakers bench on Tuesday night 50-25, led by the star of the night, Quentin Grimes, who had 23 points. Jaden Hardy had 15 off the bench as well. They want to combine 9 of 17 from the three-point line against Los Angeles. Bobby, that feels like that's going to be, again, the story tonight. Yes, Daniel Gafford is back for the Dallas Mavericks, which we'll get to a little bit later on in our injury report, but he's back as well. So another guy to be able to help them off the bench, which was really good against Los Angeles on Tuesday night.
A lot of guys scored against LA. It was, 50-25 or something? The Mavs won the bench battle last game. A lot of that was Grimes, and then Hardy caught fire there in the third quarter for a little bit, but you just need steady offense from everybody. This version of the Mavs has a little bit of firepower, right? Certainly not as much as they do whenever Luka and Kyrie are in. So like we've talked about many times, they're going to have to win games with defense, and their offense has to protect their defense. So limit turnovers, but also don't go like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes without scoring, because then you're having to get back in transition over and over again. Portland's fast. They got a lot of guards, a lot of playmakers that can get out in the open floor and hurt you. So it's almost like, this is going to sound really dumb, but like the Mavs don't have to score a lot of points, but they can't go prolonged periods without scoring, because then their defense is going to get fried, so they just need steady offense. They need Clay to do a little something, PJ to do a little something, Hardy to do a little something. Whenever someone has the hot hand, ride that guy, see what he's got, because the longer it takes to figure out how you're going to beat them, Luka and Kyrie are really good at spending the first quarter or two just figuring out, all right, where's the soft spots? What's going well tonight? What can I attack? This version of the team does not have that luxury. So you have to come out ready to go. You have to come out hot, and then you got to feed the hot hand, whoever that is, at all times, because, it's going to be tough enough as it is to get to 100 or 110. And, you don't want to be behind the 8 ball too early.
No, you don't, especially against a Blazers team that can find themselves getting up and down in transition as well. We'll get to a little bit of that a little bit later on in terms of some of the X factors for tonight's game, as far as being able to protect themselves, do the Mavericks do when keeping the Blazers out of transition, especially in the fast break. Let's switch our attention to the Blazers a little bit here. As offensively, they're going to be led by Anthony Simons. He's averaging 18.5 points per game this year while shooting nearly 36% from three so far this year. Jaden Sharp, as Bobby mentioned, has been playing really well as of late. In his last 10 games, averaging over 20 points per game, shooting 50% from the field and 36% from three. Defensively, they're going to be led by the rookie Donovan Clingan, of course, out of UConn. The rookie averaging 1.5 blocks per game and then 6 rebounds per contest. Andre Ayton does the work on the glass for this team, averaging over 14 points per game while also 10.3 rebounds per game so far this year, which is good for 12th in the league so far for Portland. Meanwhile, for the Mavericks offensively, It's led by PJ Washington, the all-everything, do-everything Swiss Army knife, if you will, for Dallas, averaging over 13 points per game while giving nearly 7.5 rebounds per contest as well, shooting 38% from three, having a really good year from the three-point line. They're going to need some of that tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. Meanwhile, Klay Thompson, the ageless one, averaging over 14 points per game, shooting nearly 39% so far from three as well. The Mavericks going to be needed to depend on their big men, especially with Derek Lively in the starting lineup, averaging 8.7 points per game so far this year, nearly 8 rebounds per contest. And Bobby giving you nearly 2 blocks per game as well. So as Derek Lively is concerned, going to be the man in the middle, going to have to, as we talk about all the time with him, staying out of foul trouble, even with Daniel Gafford now back for this team. He's got to be the focal point because he is this team's defensive anchor. And they're going to need him tonight to man the middle against a team in Portland that can get to the rim and get downhill a little bit, especially when they get things going for them.
Yeah, and the Mavs were gassed whenever they went to Portland last time. Again, it's so hard to talk about these games because they've just come boom, 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 boom. But the third game in Portland when the Mavs lost, they were tired, but Lively was out. So Gafford was your starting five. And, Gafford had a really, really hard time tracking Ayton in that game. Ayton was hitting a lot of like those little 18-footers. They're taking those pocket passes, throwing up a little 10-foot floater, 8-foot little hook shot. And Lively is much better at defending in space. And so hopefully he can take that away early, because if Ayton gets going early, it's not like that's going to make the defense overreact and get other guys going or whatever, but it can just be demoralizing, and then Ayton's going to feel good. And then he's going to play with a little more juice, maybe on defense. And then he's going to feel more, kind of better throwing himself at the rim, trying to get some offensive rebounds and putbacks and things like that. So if you can deny that easy stuff early, then you're denying easy shot opportunities for a team that whenever they aren't shooting well, especially on the road, they will fold. Portland has won some road games lately, but they're still a really bad road team overall. And so, that's something that I think is pretty important to keep in mind, that Lively is going to play tonight, whereas he didn't in the last game. But when Gafford was in the game, whenever Portland was in Dallas the second time, Gafford went off and dominated off the bench. And so, hopefully they get the best of that 1-2 punch, because, lately it's mostly been one or the other. And when they've both played, sometimes they've both struggled. Like, it's been slow goings for them without the guards, but, tonight they need both of them to play really well.
They do. They're taking on a Blazers team that's 5th worst in terms of offensive rating, 5th worst in defensive rating as well. When you look at some of the numbers overall for this team, not great, but again, a team that can get hot, especially from the three-point line. We saw that in a meeting in Portland where both teams just was bombing away from the three-point line. This team can find ways to score points. The Mavericks have got to be careful when it comes to defending this team tonight and not taking them lightly on the offensive end. As Bobby started to allude to it a little bit, these two teams have seen each other quite a bit over the last month. In fact, tonight's meeting, which is the final meeting of the season between these two teams, this is the 3rd time in the last 17 days that the Mavericks have taken on the Portland Trailblazers. The Mavericks lead the season series 2-1, with Dallas winning the first 2 games. Of course, the Mavericks are playing them for the 3rd time, as I mentioned, in the last 17 days. They last played each other on December the 28th in Portland in what was a 126-122 loss for Dallas, despite Kyrie Irving scoring 46 points that night in the losing effort. The Mavericks will look to clinch the season series tonight with a win against the Portland Trailblazers. So a lot to look forward to for the Mavericks as they look to clinch the season series against the Portland Trailblazers tonight.
Yeah, sorry. During that, Tim Cato's blowing up the group chat. You'll get those notifications shortly. He's trying to join the chat, and he went to the Luka injury emergency pod link. So,
oh wow, okay.
Tim Cato's going through it tonight, but that does mean that he's about to join the show. So at least we have that. We have that to look forward to.
We do have that to look forward to, and we will do so after Bobby tells us a little bit about Sleeper going into tonight's game.
Yeah, man. So it's cold outside. I'm home alone. I want to warm up, right? I want to heat up my viewing experience tonight. And so I'm feeling really good about myself. I had a pretty big one last game. I'm going for glory tonight. All right. So on Sleeper, the more you play, the more you can win. They have a multiplier where the more picks that you make on a single play, that multiplier will go all the way up to 100 times your initial play. So tonight, my $5 play has nearly a 20 times multiplier, Kevin. But you tell me, where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? Klay Thompson, at least 3 threes.
Okay,
Jaden
we're good.
Hardy, more than 1.5 threes. Denny
Okay.
Avdia, more than 15.5 points. PJ Washington, more than 9.5 assists plus rebounds. Quentin Grimes, more than 14.5 points. DeAndre Ayton, a double-double. I feel like this is an absolute layup. All right.
Yeah.
But, sometimes I'm a ball knower and sometimes I just walk away with egg on my face. But if you think you know ball, download Sleeper today. You play $5 with the promo code DLLS Mavs. You will get $55 in free buckaroos. That is USD to play with. Perfectly legal to play in Texas. Easy to deposit, even easier to withdraw your winnings. Shout out Sleeper. And hopefully these players give me something to feel good about tonight because I'm really cold and I could use some cold hard cash to warm me up.
Well, I like your picks. I do like your picks, actually. I think you're going to do pretty well on that tonight. So you make sure you check out Sleeper today. And yes, before we bring in Tim, I definitely want to send our thoughts and prayers to those out in California, obviously dealing with the wildfires. Luke, I see your comment in there. Definitely prayers and thoughts to those dealing with the tragic wildfires that are taking place in California. We learned today that JJ Redick's home was lost in the wildfires as well out in California. So definitely our thoughts and prayers to those there in California. And yes, it is snowing here in Dallas, Texas this evening. As we bring in our Mavericks beat writer, you can find him on X at Tim_Cato. He is, of course, Tim Cato, looking rather warm inside the American Airlines Center. Tim, what's going on?
Yeah, the beanie is staying on
tonight.
That's
a non-negotiable.
Oh, it's going to stay on the entirety of the night. Got it. Okay. All right.
Why not?
Why not? Keep warm as much as you can inside the American Airlines Center. Before we get to Tim's news and notes, prior to tonight's game, let's get to the injury report real quick for both teams. We start with the Portland Trail Blazers. Jeremy Grant, he is out tonight. He's got a facial contusion that's going to keep him out of tonight's game. Matisse Thybulle, he's out. He's dealing with the right ankle sprain. And Robert Williams III, he is out tonight, resting for the Portland Trail Blazers. Meanwhile, for Dallas, lukadoncic, he's out, of course, with the left calf strain. Kyrie Irving remains out with the injury to his back. Dante Exum is out with the right wrist injury. Daniel Gafford, though, is back and available for the Mavericks. He, of course, was dealing with that left ankle sprain, but apparently he's got bionic ankles because he is back tonight for the Dallas Mavericks. Markieff Morris, unfortunately, out due to illness, which gets us to our guy, Tim Cato. Jason Kidd speaking prior to tonight's game. What did he have to say as the Mavericks prepare to take on Portland tonight?
So he gave it kind of
a non-update on Kyrie, but said that Kyrie was, physically and mentally seemed in good shape. He has not gotten back on the court to actually do basketball stuff yet. But that, he said, is coming soon, coming shortly. So there's no, it's like I said, kind of more of a non-update than an update, but certainly there's been no setback when it comes to that 1 to 2 week timeline. It seems like he's still on course to stick with that. So that was the most notable bit of news that came out. I thought it was interesting, and this makes sense now that you think about it. But so the game, obviously, the weather here, not the most important or serious weather event going on and affecting the NBA, but the weather here, it moved the start time up by about an hour, and that was something that both teams had to agree to this morning. That they both organizations were like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense given the context. When asked how much that would affect the routine, game day routine of an NBA player, Jason Kidd basically, pointed to the Golden State game that got added to the calendar with just a few days to play. This is something that they have to do. So, probably it will feel slightly weird, especially for some of the most rigid, routine orientated players and kind of the way they go around a game day. But yeah, he didn't see it as anything that would be, an excuse or a factor in tonight's game. And in fact, as I said, it was something that both teams kind of signed up for, agreed to, given the ice and the snow in Dallas.
And of course,
KG, for what it's worth on that,
yeah,
them starting the game an hour earlier, I don't think that's going to make a huge difference in Portland's fitness level or anything. But again, the Blazers did play last night.
Mm-hmm.
And so losing an hour is, and they traveled after the game. The game last night started at 7:00 in New Orleans. So they were probably in Dallas, if I had to guess, by maybe around midnight. So this game starting even earlier than initially expected could potentially just be more of an issue for the Blazers than it is for the Mavs.
Yeah, of course, the original start time for tonight's game was going to be 7:30, moving up to 6:30. Good piece of information from Tim there that both teams had to agree to that. And knowing that the Blazers played on the second night of a back-to-back, it's interesting that they decided to agree to that based off of what they are dealing with coming into tonight's game.
I mean, they got a place to fly after this too. So like the longer they stick around, the worse
that's
it could
true
be for them as well. I mean,
I would imagine
that
was a lot of their motivation.
Yeah, that makes sense as far as the weather concerns that are obviously that we're dealing with here in Dallas when it comes to getting out of here as quickly as you can and knowing that you can get back home as quickly as you can if you're the Portland Trail Blazers. Let's get to our Mavericks player spotlight on this evening. And gentlemen, let's focus in on the guy that played extremely well in the Lakers win, and that, of course, is Quentin Grimes. In Luka-Doncic's absence, Grimes has averaged nearly 16 points per game, nearly 6 rebounds per contest, and over 4 assists per contest as well. In the last 7 games that Doncic has missed, he's also shooting 39.1% from the three-point line, 18 of 46 from 3 in his last 7 games. Of course, last game had 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists in the win over the Los Angeles Lakers. Tim, I'll start with you. Quentin Grimes playing really well as of late. They'll need that again tonight from him as they take on the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yeah, Jason Kidd got asked about his off the dribble 3-point shooting and said that it was, a weapon, something that they've needed from Quentin Grimes. It's something I know I've been saying on the show. I'm sure a lot of y'all listening probably have heard me say it, but I think it's something that, especially when Luka and Kyrie are out, it's a useful, perhaps even necessary way for Dallas to generate 3-point shots, which I think when you have an offense that isn't going to generate layups and dunks nearly as easily without Luka and Kyrie out there, nearly as easily without these pick and roll ball handlers who can create those opportunities for the centers and for players all around the court. I do think it's really important for Dallas to get up 35, 43s every night in this stretch. And so Quentin Grimes' ability to do that is, he led the team in 3-pointers. I don't think anybody shot more than 5. And he had 11 in the game 2 nights ago. That's really important. That's how you win the math advantage. When you lose the math advantage that Luka and Kyrie provide in a lot of ways, and a lot of times they provide it in turnovers and they provide it in point paints. But you can still shoot more threes than this team. And this is, we talked about this being the most talented roster of the Luka era. It's got to be the best shooting one as well. And so, that's what they need to lean into. I really think on the offensive end, or at least, make sure it's very prevalent throughout the night when you're going to be limited in your actual shot creation.
Well, in this team too, like the Blazers, they're athletic, but they're not very big, and so if you are taking a lot of threes on offense, as long as there's the possibility that you could get that offensive rebound, like just go to the rim. See, like PJ Washington, go get some offensive rebounds. Maxey, go get some. Obviously, you expect Lively and Gafford to get their fair share, but like Quentin Grimes can jump, Najee can jump a little bit. Like, let's see if you can get multiple, shots on each trip down the floor too.
And this is a Portland team that's not great in terms of the defensive rebounding department. So with your opportunities to crash the glass tonight for Dallas, multiple guys have an opportunity to be able to get second chance opportunities against this Portland Trail Blazers team for sure to hopefully get some easy points as they look for offense tonight against Portland. Let's get to our X factors in for tonight's game and kind of go through some of them. Of course, for the Mavericks looking to move to 2-0 on this homestand. If you're going to be watching the game, you can watch it on WFAA tonight on Channel 8 if you're going to be watching the game as far as locally is concerned for tonight's game. Again, tip-off at 6:30 p.m. Let's jump into our first X factor of tonight's game, gentlemen.
Bobby, did you just fall over?
No, I
think he's trying to adjust himself, I think.
Like he fell backwards
into his couch, like his couch just swallowed him.
No, I need to explain myself. I'm sitting angled so that like the one light source that won't make me look like I'm in a cave is hitting on my face. But that means I'm not sitting on my couch. I'm like kind of sitting on the edge at an angle, crisscross applesauce underneath my coffee table where the table will like has the little thing that rises up like a desk. And so my knee is under the coffee table. And Yeah, it got caught on it a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm making sacrifices to make this show work, and you're criticizing me for an honest. I don't even want to call it a mistake. I was victimized.
Well, at least you weren't
I
still
am
looking
just-
up at the sun or at the snow, during a break or something like that.
I just thought
I'll
that
do the
it
post game
was-
from my
something that we
patio.
had to acknowledge.
Tim felt the need to just acknowledge what was happening. Full transparency here on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. Shout out to Luke in the chat. He's got the Maverick starters for us. Spencer Dinwiddie, Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall, PJ Washington, and Derek Lively going to be your starters tonight for the Dallas Mavericks. So shout out to you, Luke, for throwing that in there and helping us out here on the pregame show. Let's get to our X factors then real quick before we get out of here. The Mavericks definitely number one for me, at least. Need to keep the Blazers out of the paint. The matchup that they had the last time, the Blazers had 58 of their 126 points in the paint against Dallas, shooting nearly 55% inside the painted area there, with Gafford and Lively back, especially for Gafford's sake as well. The opportunity to hopefully limit some of that will be an opportunity for Dallas to keep them out of the paint, because unfortunately the Trailblazers got in there quite a bit the last time these two teams got together to score a lot of points inside the paint there.
Yeah, I mean, Portland is that's one of their strengths. You said they're a bad offensive or bad defensive rebounding team, but they're also a good offensive rebounding team as well. So they're they get and concede a lot of offensive rebounds. This is a it's I wondered, as we mentioned the starting five, the one question was, does Quentin Grimes come in place of Najee Marshall? But it seems like Jason Kidd really likes this slightly bigger jumbo lineup. We've seen
one true
big man, but certainly PJ is PJ, Clay, Najee offers you a lot of size 2 to 4. So it's a chance for Dallas to start with a defensive tone, with a start by hopefully being competent and credible on the glass on both ends if possible. And I think from a tone setting perspective, that's pretty important for Dallas, because as important as Quentin Grimes scoring is, we've talked a lot about how this offense is just going to be limited without Luka and Kyrie out there. So if there is a side of the floor that this team really has to start on to go about getting wins without those two superstars, it is a defensive end. So in that context, I do think that probably is a lot of the motivation of where this lineup comes from and a lot of the thinking.
Let's go to our second X factor for tonight's game. That's keeping the Blazers out of transition. Last time these two teams got together, the Blazers scored 24 points in the fast break. They were a plus 12 in that department over the Dallas Mavericks. So the Mavericks got to get back in transition, limit those easy opportunities for, as Bobby mentioned, an athletic Portland Trailblazers team that can get up and down and finish pretty good in transition. And finally, you guys have mentioned a little bit throughout the course of the pregame show here, the three-point shooting of the Dallas Mavericks was fantastic against the Los Angeles Lakers. Can they keep up that three-party tonight, as the Mavericks shot 47% from three in the game against the Los Angeles Lakers, making 18 threes in that win? Mavericks so far this year, sixth in the NBA in terms of three-point shooting at 37.6%. So we're talking about Dallas as one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league. They're going to need a lot of that tonight, especially offensively, from guys like Quentin Grimes, Jaden Hardy, and others, Bobby, to really be able to get some points, especially from distance against Portland.
Got to make shots. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. Like, you want to find out if the Mavs are going to win or lose during this time, especially without Luka and Kyrie. I mean, you're going to just go to the box score, and that's the stat you're going to look at. Like, this season, if they shoot 40% from three, let me count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 2 when they shoot at least 40% from three, and you can do the math for when they shoot under 40%. 40% is really, really, really good. 36, 37% is good enough to be in the top 10. They lose when they shoot 36 or 37%. They win when they shoot great. And so, if they're going to be hot, start hot, and stay hot, they're probably going to win.
We will see.
Go
ahead.
Dallas has shown they have other ways to win in the past, but that's when Luka and Kyrie are out there. That's when you're really dominating in the paint, that you're getting a ton of dunks and layups and alley-oops and lobs. And, that is something they showed last season, and certainly showed it on, couple that with a really good defensive performances, and they can win games that way. They can win games on the offensive glass, but right now without Luka and Kyrie out there, absolutely, I think it is going to take a good, if not great, three-point shooting performance for this team to win games.
Can I give one more X factor, KG?
Yeah.
The next player that fouls a three-point shooter is going to be cut. That's it. That's my last key to the game.
Yeah. Don't foul 3-point shooters, PJ. Are
they on like a 15-game streak of doing that right now? Like it
feels like it. Yes. It feels like every time out there on the floor, at least one or two of those plays occur, which you cannot do. You should not do. Please don't do it here in the association. Tim, we appreciate you reporting live from the American Airlines Center. We'll talk to you post game after the Mavericks take on the Blazers. My guy, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye, Tim.
That is Tim Cato live from the American Airlines Center. It is game time for your Dallas Mavericks. They're taking on the Portland Trail Blazers tonight, looking for back-to-back wins as they look to move to 2-0 on their 4-game homestand. We'll be back 15 minutes after the game is over with right here on DLLS Sports for the DLLS Mavs postgame show. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on the way out the door. And again, 15 minutes after the final buzzer, we'll be right here with our post-game show with our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato and our national NBA insider Mark Stein as well. Really appreciate all of you joining us here on our pregame show, and we'll talk to you right here on DLLS Mavs once the show's over. Bobby, we'll look forward to talking to you then. My guy, we'll talk to you then. All right.
See you soonish.
All right. This is DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you 15 minutes after the game is over with. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.